Welcome to the MBA50 interview series. I'm here with Deb Chaki, an INSEAD student about to complete the program here in Fontainebleau. Deb, thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Can you share a little bit of your background?
Sure. So I'm an Indian. I lived and worked in India for some time. I did my studies there. So basically an economics graduate, did my master's after that. I worked for a global bank, Deutsche Bank. With them, moved quite a bit in Europe and Asia. Lived in Singapore for 4 years in the banking, covering India and China. So I figured that had enough of Asia, so why not do an MBA and why not in Europe? So landed in INSEAD.
Right. So obviously you've had both experience of Europe and Singapore, which fits well with this school in particular. But why did you want to do an MBA in Europe?
I think the first priority was doing an MBA. I think it was imperative from my career perspective to get that degree. There's a lot of value to it. The other thing is it was less about Europe, it was more about which school, and INSEAD made a lot of sense. Being in Europe, I could look at the emerging markets world. I was focused a lot from a career perspective on emerging markets. And being in London, you could cover Eastern Europe, you could cover Latin America, Africa. So that dimension was useful. So that was one reason of why Europe. INSEAD obviously had a big role to play as to why I chose a business school in Europe. INSEAD obviously has great brand equity. I spoke to a lot of recruiters. Even in my firm, there was a lot of executive development program with INSEAD. So that made a lot of sense. The second is INSEAD is truly global. So that also fit my thing because again, ultimately in our careers right now, we don't constrain ourselves to one geography and stuff. In our career, we probably cover 5 continents. So it made sense. The more global the peer group is, the more interesting the experience will be. So partly that was the reason. It was mainly driven by INSEAD. And secondly, the move to Europe made sense from an emerging markets perspective.
Right. Now, of course, you graduate in a month. Has the year gone quickly?
Yeah, very quickly. I think there's been lots which has happened, made lots of friends. It's been a sort of exhilarating experience going through the whole thing. Again, it's a 10-month program. So academically it's rigorous, but it's also fun because everybody's going through the same thing. So you still party, you still go out with friends, you still have national weeks, fun events, rugby club, a lot of things happen on campus. So I would say it's been really interesting, and I think whatever I expected of the MBA, I got.
How has the school helped you?
I think from my perspective, I've been in the finance field. I was covering India and China from investment strategy side for Deutsche Bank in Singapore. So it was more buy side. I wanted to do sell side and I wanted to move to London. I think my big change was moving to London, which is sort of a career change, but so to speak, I stayed in the finance field. So INSEAD obviously enabled it a lot, 2 ways. One is with INSEAD, there's this tremendous brand equity with recruiters. When I came into campus in January, immediately there were companies presenting. There was a whole process, and by February I had an internship. The internship was again a very rigorous process. As you can imagine in this trying economic times, it can be quite rigorous. But then again, as a huge support from alumni. I mean, during my summer internship in London, we had at least 3 networking cocktail events every week. Also within the firm in which I was interning, which was Citi, we had a lot of alumni who were very supportive. They not only gave you career advice, they would connect you with the right people. So I think INSEAD enables a lot of change that you want to bring to your own career perspective. It's about how you embrace those changes and what you make out of it. So if I were to summarize, I think one point would be that INSEAD has provided me the platform to get to where I wanted to go. And the second thing is the alumni network is a huge, tremendous support. I think it's a closed-knit society, and if you impress them, they really stop nowhere to help you out. So that's really useful.
Right. Now, clearly a very positive experience, but was there ever a moment when you sort of said, what have I done? You know, why have I come here?
I think, yeah, of course. I mean, both sides happen. So I've had loads of positive events and positive experiences at INSEAD. But I think if I were to think of it, it's 1 year out of work, and you really think in a poor economic conditions, was it the right choice? There were things that we think my career was going fine and I was doing pretty well. So was this the right decision to leave that and take such a big risk? Especially the fact that both me and my partner are students, that adds an additional sort of element of risk that what if things turn really bad in the economic situation? But frankly, things turned out well, but then obviously we've had our moments where we've been worried that will the economic condition be good? Was this a big risk to take it? I think at the end it paid off and it worked out the way we wanted. But if you were to say that were there moments of anxiety and stuff, yes, there were some. And apart from that, again, I think from a 1 year program, it happens too fast. So sometimes you would consider that, did I do as much, did I learn as much in some areas as much as I could have learned in a longer program. I think that was one consideration, but for me, being out of the job market, the trade-off between being out of the job market and away from the financial markets and between learning more in one area, I think the trade-off was quite clear. I would rather do a 1-year program than do a 2-year program, but yes, of course.
And the fact that you came here with your partner, obviously there's, you've both been kept very busy, but how has it worked with both of you studying here?
I think it makes life a bit easier because you both understand and relate to the same things. If there's a national week, you know, okay, this is fun, we both go there. It's not like someone else is sitting in Singapore or someone else sitting somewhere else, and you're saying, oh, I'm having so much fun, darling, but yeah, you go to sleep. It's not like that. So it's more fun from a social side. Our friends are common, so that makes life easier. Traveling around Europe has been good. We've been able to travel quite a bit. So life, I think, was much easier because we were students and we could understand each other's life much better than if one of us was studying and the other was working parallel in some other continent. So I think it worked better than what we expected, so it helped.
Now, INSEAD, of course, is one of the world's top business schools and very competitive to get into. You both succeeded in that process. Looking back at obviously everything that you had to prepare in the application, any advice that you would have to future applicants? It can be very stressful, people worrying about the GMAT and of course what you're trying to communicate in the essays. What would your advice be?
I think to get into INSEAD, one is having a global mindset. That's like the most important thing. I think when you get here, you're working in groups of very different personality types, very different nationalities, people or countries you've even never heard of at times. So it's very important that you really have a global mindset. You be open to change. I think in the essays and whatever interviews you do, it's very important to come across as someone who's genuine, someone who's open to learning. A lot of people here have amazing experiences. But that doesn't mean that they should not be good learners. They should come here with a very open approach that I'm here to learn from as many people as I can. I think that's important. The global mindset also from a work perspective. If genuinely I were to give one input when they're writing their essays, is that give examples where you worked in teams and you worked in cross-border teams. Okay. It's very relevant because that's the new world. No matter which organization you're working or leading, you will work with cross-border teams. So I think that cultural setting and understanding is important. GMAT and the academics and those things are a hygiene factor. This would what would differentiate someone, I would think.
Okay. And once you get the letter of acceptance, it's then thinking, right, I've got to finance this. Yeah. How did you finance your MBA?
INSEAD has a number of ways of financing. So there are scholarships. Then the second is, of course, you can take loans. Right. So there's a special tie-up called Prodigy Loan. And then there is your own savings. So although, I mean, from a savings perspective, I did think that, I mean, I could finance it and do it, but then I did take a loan from Prodigy, which was very useful because this is a MBA student run thing where they contribute and they get funds and they assimilate and do that. So that was an INSEAD agreement which was very favorable, so I took it up. And the rest I used my own savings. So to that extent, I mean, I was not so overtly worried about the financing part as such because again, you join a firm, you get compensated enough, you get a sign-on bonus which takes care of 50–60% of your tuition fees. Right. And again, this is an experience, right? So it wasn't that big a consideration for me, but there are a lot of avenues of taking care of it at INSEAD.
And now, again, a month away from graduation, what comes next?
So post-INSEAD, I'm moving off to London, where I'll be starting in a role in sales and trading. And that's really exciting because that's what I wanted when I started the program. And it's again a whole new world, a whole new market with new people to interact with. So I'm really excited about it. And also the relationships that I've built here, I mean, they will last forever. So again, the networks that I've built with people, the sort of relationships we built with our friends, and not just from a career perspective, but from just a social perspective. There are, I think, about 70–75 of us from our promotion who will be going to London together. So that's something to look forward to, right? At least in the weekend, you know, apart from your friends and relatives from earlier, you have a whole host of people to like chat up to, have a drink with and stuff. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Great. Well, good luck with those next steps. And
thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing the video and your insights with us.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Deb.